are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am covering haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find everything associated with the podcast at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And that includes all the episodes of the show, links to social media, ways to support the show, and friends of the show, including Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays when she's able to join me. And a few things I always like to note when I start these Haunted Places episodes. How it works is I get a list of places and research them and keep the ones that have enough articles about them and share them on the shows, and also share a couple of the articles for each location in the episode description, so you can find pictures and more information that I'm able to share in a limited amount of time, and also find out what the status of the place is as far as whether or not you can visit it, and go from there. Some places you cannot visit them currently, or possibly anymore. So in some cases, I'm just talking about places that maybe existed but don't exist in the same way anymore. And so I always recommend checking into that, because I never recommend trespassing for any reason. And of course, I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of names, of people or places, as words are hard, and especially when you're trying to do this live and you don't have the time, and you never think about it in advance to try to find pronunciations for things. I don't know why that always sort of slips my mind when I'm going to start one of these, but it always does. So kind of stuck with what we get. Anyway, let me get to the material here. We are in New York. One moment here. Okay. So we are still in New York. We started it last one of these episodes. And now this next location, this is not an actual legal name. It is more of a local name, I'm guessing local. A name a place is known by. And this is a brownstone in Greenwich Village, I'm not sure how you say that for sure. And its reputation comes from a mix of notable residents, repeated tragedies, and long-running ghost stories. The house was built in the 1850s, later housed prominent New Yorkers, including James Borman. James Borman Johnston's family, and is best known for briefly being home to Mark Twain around 1900 and 1901. History. The building began as a fashionable 19th century townhouse in Greenwich Village. One early source of its eerie reputation is the home's long list of deaths over time. Some accounts say about 22 people died there across its history, though that figure is part of local lore rather than a formal census. James Borman Johnston's family lived there in the 1880s, and Johnston was a significant New York philanthropist connected with the Metropolitan Underground Railroad and cultural projects in the city. Mark Twain then lived at the address for about a year in 1900, and a bronze plaque outside the building commemorates that connection. The house's nickname, House of Death, became especially entrenched after the 1987 of Lisa Steinberg, who was killed in the home, among other things, before that by her adoptive father, Joel Steinberg. That tragedy gave the building a darker, modern identity, reinforced the idea. Wow, my voice today. The house carried a heavy emotional imprint. Even before that, people reported strange happenings. One often reported story from Twain's time there involved him seeing a piece of kindling move by itself, then finding a few drops of blood after he shot at it, though Twain remained skeptical of the supernatural. That's terrifying. Uh, Reported spirits. The most famous alleged apparition is Mark Twain himself, often described as appearing in a white suit on the staircase or first floor. Other reports mention a woman in white, footsteps, cold spots, moving objects, disembodied voices, and a phantom gray cat. Some paranormal accounts claim the house has more than 20 spirits tied to it, sometimes specifically 22. Those numbers come from ghost tour and paranormal sources, so they should be treated as folklore claims rather than verified facts. Okay? What makes it famous? Well, obviously there's Twain, but what makes this place stand out is the layering of real history and ghost lore. A prestigious old house, a famous author who lived there, and a later tragedy that cemented its sinister nickname. For haunted location fans, it's one of New York City's best-known examples of a site where historical reputation and supernatural storytelling reinforce each other. So, yeah, that's a tragic situation there with that murder and everything. But, yeah, the Twain angle is fascinating. And I do wonder, again, was he writing there at the time? Was he working on something? I don't know, but I can say from experience, not that I'm anywhere near comparing myself to Twain, but from writing and everything that I've done over the years, it's there's a lot of energy and emotions and a lot of things going on in one's mind when one is working on writing something. I think almost anything really, especially fiction in a way. The next location here is the Morris Jamel House or Mansion. In Manhattan, and it's Manhattan's oldest surviving house, built around 1765 as a summer home for British Colonel Roger Morris and his wife, Mary Phillips. Phillips Morris? That's a different name for different way of spelling Phillips. It's Philipse. It later became a Revolutionary War headquarters for both George Washington and British and Hessian forces, then was owned by Stephen and Eliza Jamel, yeah, before becoming a museum in 1904. History. The mansion began as an upscale country estate called Mount Morris, on land in what is now Washington Heights. After the Revolutionary War broke out, the Morris family's loyalist property was confiscated, and the house's role shifted with the conflict and the changing city around it. Its most famous wartime connection is George Washington, who used it as headquarters after the Battle of Long Island in 1776. After the war, it went through several uses, including time as a tavern before Stephen Jamel bought it in 1810, and his wife Eliza reshaped it with major renovations. Why it is said to be haunted. The haunting tradition is closely tied to Eliza Jamel, who is often reported as appearing in period dress, especially a violet or purple gown, sometimes on the second floor balcony or in upstairs rooms. Accounts also link the house to Aaron Burr, whose presence is said to linger in former backroom areas, along with unexplained footsteps, voices, and other sounds. Other reported spirits include a Hessian soldier from the Revolutionary War, a serving girl, and Stephen Jamel himself. Museum staff have even kept a book of haunts, in quotation marks there, to record visitor and employee experiences, which helps explain why the mansion has such a strong ghost story reputation. Part of the mansion's atmosphere comes from its layered past. Loyalist home, wartime headquarters, tavern, private residence, and museum. That long history gives the building a lot of possible memory for ghost lore, especially in rooms connected to notable figures like Eliza Jamel and Aaron Burr. And if you're interested in haunted places, this is one of New York City's best-known paranormal landmarks because it combines documented history with a very active ghost tradition. The stories are especially compelling because they cluster around real historical people rather than vague folklore alone. Visiting the place. Today it operates, and again, please check on this because things may change. Today it operates as a museum and historic house, preserving both architecture and the stories tied to the site. The mansion's official history emphasizes its role in early New York, the Revolution, and its later life as a cultural landmark in Harlem and Washington Heights area. I do know, I've heard this and seen this before on different shows, talked about where I guess there was a bunch of kids waiting to get into the museum one day. They got there before it opened. I've heard this somewhere, maybe a couple places, a few places. I think Reddit too. And they got there early and they were outside just kind of waiting and playing and laughing and talking. And a woman came out on a balcony, I think it was, and asked them to be quiet, basically. And then went back inside. And then eventually one of the employees got there and opened the door. And they asked who the woman was and why she didn't let them in. And apparently this employee that they talked to was the first person to get there that day. So that to me is always fascinating when you have people not even looking to have a paranormal experience, and then you end up having one. So it's always fascinating to me when you come across those accounts. So when people have those experiences, because again, so much of this is not people looking to have experiences. I mean, the majority of my experiences I've ever had, they were not me looking for it. They were just things that happened. So, moving on to the next location here. And this is the Sagamore Resort. And this is in Bolton Landing, New York. This has a long Gilded Age history and a well-known haunted reputation. It first opened in 1883. Sorry, sometimes 8s and 6s, even when I have everything enlarged, kind of look alike. Was damaged by fires in 1893 and 1914. Rebuilt in the early 1920s, closed in 1981, and was restored and reopened after Norman Walgan bought it in 1983. History. The resort was originally built as a luxurious lakefront destination on Green Island in Lake George, and it quickly attracted wealthy guests and summer residents. Over time, it became a social center for the affluent Millionaires Row community along the lake's western shore. The Sagamore later fell into disrepair, but its historic status endured, and it is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Haunting claims. Most of the haunting stories are the usual mix of lingering guests, staff sightings, and a few especially persistent legends. Reported spirits include a ghostly couple seen in the restaurant area, a tall woman in a white dress, a man sometimes called Walter, so maybe implying that that's the, I don't know if it's, I wonder if that's connected to the owner, the person that bought the place in the 80s, not sure. And a young boy said to appear on the golf course chasing the golf balls. The boy legend says he collected stray golf balls for money and was later killed in a car accident, which is why people connect his spirit to the grounds. Hopefully that's just a legend. Local legend, speaking of more legends here. One recurring rumor says the resort was built on Native American burial grounds, which some writers use to explain the paranormal activity. That is a trope that is there for a reason, even though it may be overused in fiction. But anyway, let's see here. That claim is part of the resort's folklore rather than a verified historical fact in the sources. The haunted reputation has become part of the Sagamore's identity, and it is frequently mentioned on lists of haunted hotels. The Sagamore's haunted reputation fits the pattern of many historic resorts. Long occupancy, major fires, rebuilds, and decades of stories layered on top of one another. Whether you view the ghost reports as folklore or something more, the resort's combination of elegance, age, and dramatic history makes it a strong candidate for haunted hotel lore. The setting on Lake George also adds to the atmosphere, especially at night. So that's where that one ends there. And yeah, I mean, hotels, they're really common as haunted places. People coming and going, all that energy, all that motion, all the things that happen there that you would not maybe normally have happen at a home. The excitement of going to a hotel. I mean, if you don't go to them often, then you get to go to a place like that once or twice ever. That's going to be a lot of emotion there. And yeah, so I can see why that would be, even if it's just residual. I can see why there'd be stuff going on there. But moving on to the next location here, we can get at least one more in here before we stop for the night. Well, for this episode, I should say. Get one more episode to record after this. And this is the Landmark Theater, another type of location. I think when we're done with this whole series, I'm going to do a show on this, the types of locations that we've seen in this series, and just do an overview of why they may have activity in them, because I think that'd be a good thing to do to sort of wrap it all up. But anyway, that's quite a ways off. We're still only in New York, alphabetically, so. So the Landmark Theater in Syracuse began life as the Loews State Theater, Loew. And that was a 1928 movie palace built during the golden age of lavish, atmospheric theaters. It was saved from demolition in the 1970s by local preservation efforts and reopened in 1977 as the Landmark Theater. History. The theater was announced in 1925, designed by architect Thomas W. Lamb, and opened on February 18th, 1928. At the time, it was Syracuse's grandest movie and vaudeville venue, with a 3,000-seat auditorium and an attached office tower. It stayed popular through the Depression and World War II, but by the 1970s, attendance had fallen and the building had deteriorated. Community members from members formed, Syracuse Area Landmark Theater bought the property and restored it so it could continue as a performing arts venue. Haunting lore. The most famous ghost story at the landmark is Clarissa, a woman said to have fallen from the balcony in 1930. In local lore, she appears as a pale figure in white and sometimes leaves behind the scent of flowers or a lilac-like perfume. Other reports describe a stagehand named Oscar and a janitor named Charlie, along with strange blue lights, disembodied voices, and odd images in photos. That's always fascinating. Some accounts place the activity in the auditorium, the Red Room, the Walnut Room, and the basement. The haunting claims are part of the theater's local legend, not firmly documented in history. A newspaper search cited in a Syracuse.com piece found no recorded tragedy matching Clarissa's story in the theater's archives, which, okay, that's fine. That's good that people can look into this. Then why are people still seeing an apparition like that? Which suggests the ghost tales may be folklore that grew around the building's dramatic setting. The landmark is especially evocative because its real history already feels theatrical. A huge 1920s palace, near destruction, community rescue, and a long second life as a cultural landmark. That mix of preserved grandeur and ghost stories is exactly the kind of setting that tends to generate enduring haunting lore. So, that's probably a good place to stop as far as, I don't think we'll get to another one here before we're done with this episode. But yeah, theaters, again, I think it's fascinating when you have these situations where there are these apparitions seen and these stories that are told about these apparitions, but then you go and look into the stories and there's not a lot of evidence that these things happen, and yet there are still these apparitions. So what is happening? Is it an actual spirit or residual energy that the people just have the story wrong? Or is there no evidence because of mismanagement of records or just lost records or all these things? Probably, I'm guessing that does happen here and there. Or is it because, again, there was something there or there wasn't, but then all the thoughts and focus on this story literally created a thought form, or all these thoughts and energies were taken in or surrounded something that was already there. All kinds of possibilities there. But anyway, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.